Hey friends, Kathryn here, and today I wanted to talk about online qualitative research. Obviously, many of us research professionals are spending a lot of time doing online qualitative this past year, and online qualitative can mean a lot of things to different people. It can be online focus groups, it could be multi-day events, which we typically refer to as online bulletin boards. It could be in-depth interviews that are using webcam or other online qual platforms that allow us to very easily display different types of visual stimuli, etc. It could be mobile ethnography applications and other phone-based methods where there's some sort of application on the participants' phones. So there's a lot of different ways of doing online qual these days. And obviously, online qual can also be used for a lot of different purposes. But one of the things I've been hearing recently from some of the Research Rockstar students is that when they're doing projects that relate to ideation, that they're running into some challenges. So as you're thinking about your use of online qualitative research, for yourself, have you had some experiences with ideation? If you have, again, you're not alone. This definitely seems to be one of the challenges. So, for example, hear from our students that they've had some great successes using online qualitative research for product concept testing, for message testing, for exploring brand perceptions, a lot of different purposes. But I keep hearing that ideation in particular is somewhat challenging. Now, the truth is that ideation research in general is always challenging for a number of reasons. But with online qual, it definitely seems to be a topic of, how can I use online qual for ideation and avoid some of these specific challenges? So one of the challenges that I hear from folks is they're just not getting enough ideas. And again, that's the challenge with any kind of ideation, no matter what your methodology is. But specifically for online qual, just not getting enough ideas or not getting enough unexpected ideas. So the feeling that I'm getting the ideas that I probably already knew about, or I feel like the ideas that people are generating are the things that are sort of expected. For example, if you are a company that makes computers and you're doing ideation around laptops, you might be frustrated because people keep coming back to the known issues of, well, I wish they cost less. I wish the battery life lasted longer. These are sort of well-known issues or ideas that you would expect, but you're not getting the unexpected stuff. You're not discovering the new stuff. And that's part of what makes ideation so helpful. If we're not getting a lot of ideas, or if the ideas are too expected, too predictable, then we're kind of missing that opportunity. With ideation, we want it to be really brainstorming. We want it to be creative. We want people to know that they are in a judgment-free zone and that we want them to give us crazy ideas. We don't want them pre-filtering their ideas. And we want them to come up with ideas that, even though in reality we may not, some of them might be totally unrealistic, just the fact that they came up with those ideas might be revealing something about sources of pain or unmet needs. So it's not like ideation is literally to come up with a bunch of ideas of things that we would definitely do. We want the creativity. We want to get at the inspiration behind the ideas. So what can we do with ideation in general, but specifically to overcome these challenges with online qual? So very often in qualitative research, we do use a lot of projective techniques. And there are certainly a lot of projective techniques that work really well when we're doing in-person qual that can be harder to do in online qual. You can still do them, but it is more challenging. The other reality is that when we're doing projective techniques, and by the way, for those of you who may not know what I mean by projective techniques, for those of you who may be newer to the market research and insights professions, projective techniques are things like asking about things in an indirect way to get at a deeper reveal about emotions or values or ideas or aspirations. So collage exercises, personification exercises, the explain it to an alien exercise. There's dozens and dozens of these types of projective techniques. The challenge in online qual is that um, those exercises take a significant amount of time. Very often you find that it takes people a little bit to warm up to the exercise. Once one or two of the participants really get into it, then the rest kind of join in if it's a real-time exercise. But again, folks sometimes find that with online qual that they're not getting enough ideas or that the ideas are a little bit too predictable. So maybe you've been able to crack the code and you're able to use projective techniques effectively, but there is an alternative to ideation in online qual, and that is to ask the questions and provide a little bit of structure. Now, I know that might seem contradictory to what we normally want to do with ideation. Wait a minute, you're going to give them structure, but you want them to be creative? It does sound a bit contradictory. But there is a method to the madness here. And it's an approach that you can use that can get you to a lot of ideas, a lot of unexpected ideas, but not taking as much time as you might find that you need if you're doing a more creative projective exercise. So again, I love projective exercises, but there are alternatives. So one alternative that I like is the start, stop, continue model. This is a very classic model that you may have heard of if you ever worked with management consulting folks, or if you went to business school, you may have seen start, stop, continue in your business strategy class. And it can be modified for a lot of different purposes. I actually also use start, stop, continue as a framework for writing research reports. But in this case, we can introduce the question of, hey, welcome to our online focus group for, let's say we're doing research for a chain of coffee shops. So we're doing research for Acme coffee shops. Thank you so much for joining us for our online focus group. You've got your warm-up questions. You kind of get the group established. They've got some basic trust with the facilitator. Things are going great. It's time to introduce the ideation. We're interested in your ideas for improving the Acme coffee shops. And so we're going to start by asking you 3 questions. First, we're going to ask you, what are some of the things that Acme coffee shops could be doing that would be new? That is, what should we start doing that we're not currently doing? And then we're going to ask you, what can we do to improve that would be things we should stop doing? So what would you like Acme coffee shops to stop doing? And then we'd also like to hear what we're doing that's okay. What are we doing well that you would like us to continue doing? And then go through the questions. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Kathryn, why tell them you're going to ask the 3 different questions? Why not just ask them one question at a time? Well, part of the benefit of this structure is that, believe it or not, people are nice. And if you ask them, what should we start doing? They may be reluctant. If you ask them, what should we stop doing? They may be reluctant. But giving them the clue that you're also going to be asking them, what are we currently doing well that we should continue doing? That's sort of giving them that feeling of, oh, I'm going to get to tell them things they definitely should change, but I'm also going to give them some kudos. I'm going to recognize some of the good things too. And again, people are actually usually nice, especially if it's a brand with which they have a relationship. If it is, in this case, a coffee shop chain that they frequent. So letting them know that they're going to have an opportunity to give you good news can actually help them relax enough to really come on strong with the things you should start and stop doing. Now, I know some of the people who enjoy the conversations here are doing it audio only. For those of you who are audio only, I want to point out that there's a visualization here that you can get from YouTube that just displays the start, stop, continue as traffic lights. So if you are doing online qual, you can use variations of this image as sort of a way to get the conversation started. Depending on the online qual platform you're using, you may be able to put these up as stickies. You may be able to put these up as images to help get the conversation going. So what would it actually look like then? Well, you want to make sure that you're giving people enough time to come up with multiple ideas. You don't want to have them say, hey, what are some of the things we should start doing? Now you've given them a little structure. What should you start doing? So typically what you'll find is that 1 or 2 brave people will go first, and then other people will really jump in, and then they'll start to feed off of each other. And some of the ideas will likely overlap a bit. That's fine. If they're building off of each other, that is great. The most important thing is that we're giving them the time to react to each other. Sometimes those reactions are some of the greatest insights, right? When you see that somebody's mentioning something and the others really start to riff on it, now you know that they've tapped into an important underlying desire or source of pain, frustration, and so on. So in our hypothetical example, maybe we say, the first couple of people say, well, we want you to start, I wish you would start offering more vegan options. Or I wish you would start making it easier to customize orders. So you might get a couple of these starter ideas, and then people will riff. What about stop? Well, maybe they come up with, well, I wish you would stop pushing the high calorie items. Every time I come into the shop, all the promotions are about the really high calorie items, and that's really not something that interests me. It's in fact something I'm trying to avoid. So please stop pushing the high calorie items. It's very frustrating. Or maybe stop talking so much about your bread. It's not that great. Yikes. Good feedback though, something we should stop doing. Hopefully you get a couple of those stop ideas, people start riffing on each other, and you get more and more ideas. Continue. Again, that's great. You give them that chance to say what you are doing well. Sometimes that can lead to some creativity too, or some surprises. For example, you might find out that there's something that you're doing well that you don't brag enough about, right? You may not realize what a great job you're doing with a particular product or a service. That's fantastic. Maybe you discover something that people really love that you really haven't been leveraging much, and that you could get, more out of in terms of marketing messages and growing your market. And our hypothetical case here, maybe you say, what are the things that we should continue doing? And maybe the first couple of responses are, well, you should continue making a great variety of iced teas. Great. What else? You should continue sending the text messages with the specials. I really enjoy getting those. And it's just a good reminder that it's time for me to take a break and go get a fresh snack or whatever. So again, we're going to hope for and facilitate so that we get more than just 2 ideas per column here. We don't want just 2 ideas for start and 2 for stop, for 2 for continue. But hopefully those give you some ideas about the kind of responses you might get. Now, an important thing here too is to be specific about what it is you are asking about. And my hypothetical example here, I said, we are Acme coffee shops, and we would like to find out what we can do to improve do to improve our coffee shops. What should we start doing, stop doing, continue doing? But it could have been something much different. It could have been about a specific product. Maybe if this was a company that makes virtual reality headsets, you wanted to find out about what should we do with a particular model of our virtual reality headset. Or if I'm a company that makes ice cream, it might have been about the flavors of ice cream. What ice creams should we start doing, stop doing, continue doing? There are a lot of different ways that we can scope it. It could be at the brand level. It could be at the product level. It might be specific to your service. If you are a company that makes, say, consumer electronics, you could do a start, stop, continue on your customer service, not even on the products themselves. So it can be applied to a lot of different things. But again, projective techniques are fantastic, but if you're finding that using projective techniques is being challenging for you with online qual, that you're not getting enough ideas or enough really fresh, unexpected ideas, there are alternatives. This is really just the start, stop, continue approach. Having a structured question like this is really almost a variation on a sentence completion exercise. I wouldn't call that a projective technique. It's just giving people a little bit of structure to work with to start the ideation process. I hope you found that example helpful. I hope that you find that that's something that you can experiment with in your own work. Again, I know a lot of folks have had some challenges with online qual and a lot of successes too, right? Absolutely a lot of successes with online qual, but we're all still learning now that we've gotten so heavy into online qual, and I hope this type of tip has been useful for you. If you find this conversation useful, please do subscribe, and you can always enjoy the conversations either on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts. And as always, we always appreciate reviews. The more people who review either on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, it helps us to kind of get the word out about the conversations, and then more people will find us. Thanks for your time, and if you have any questions, do let me know. Thanks.